Hi, welcome back to Beautiful Souls. This is actually going to be a unique experience for me because I don't have this completely written out. So, my apologies if it isn't that good, but this is basically what EP zeros are for on my channel. For some of you that are new to the channel, welcome, welcome. But a little bit of explanation. I do part zeros on my channel. Basically, all part zeros are like background episodes. Basically, if you don't want like the backstory or like setup for the series, you can literally just skip episode zeros most of the time. There are a few that go past 45 minutes that will have a little bit of EP1. So usually like if you watch my videos a lot, you would understand. But that being said, let's get into this new series. This is a series that actually comes from Etherios Natsu Dragmule, a good fellow that I when I first started my channel, me and him like started to talk and everything, and we've sort of thrown ideas back and forth over the past couple of years about different series. I had actually been planning on an Immortal Naofumi series, and an idea that he brought up with me several like like a little bit ago. I've basically got like a series planned out with major plot points that I wanted to have in the series, but I was finding a hard way of how to do this immortality now Fumi and make it make sense. But the conversation that I just had, geez, it's been near 5 hours since we were talking on Discord about this. So again, thank you, Etherios, for the help on this. This series actually wouldn't be coming out if it wasn't for you. That being said, let's get into what if Naofumi became immortal. So, unlike a lot of other series, this series is actually going to really start at a certain point that already exists in canon. It's not going to start at the beginning of the series because there's literally no point in the series to cover those from when he gets summoned all the way up to the point where the meat of the series will like begin to start. So our story for this actually takes place before the waves actually start, like like 1,000, 2,000 years prior to our story in the in this series. It starts off with lore about fairies, and if you're thinking cutesy little fairy things, nah, these aren't your garden variety fairies. Fairies, how think of it as FAE fairies, but how I will be spelling it is FAIR instead of FAER. Two totally different types of creatures, but it's literally pronounced the same way, and this is like old. Like the idea that I have for this is from like an old English tales and novels. So that being said, these creatures long ago had been hunted to extinction by the humans of this world. They're one of the first races of this world, actually, and they're the best way to describe these fairies are spirits of nature, guardians of nature, guardians of life, and stuff like that. So like the winds and the winds of the wild, Mother Nature, that type of concept. So over the years and everything, a lot of legends about the fairies have like cropped up along with the cardinal weapons. A lot of knowledge base, like knowledge, like it's like common knowledge that fairies did exist at one point, but they're extinct now, and because how they died out was lost to the ages. But as for you viewers and us, we will know that they were actually hunted by the humans of the time to extinction. So Our story actually begins not at the start of it. Our story will would actually begin when Naofumi and Raftalia go to loot for the first time to like mine ore. So everything that happened to Naofumi, the allegations, him meeting Raftalia, the blacksmith, bitch, is annex and like trash as annex for this series. Like all that happens, that like this like everything that happens to Naofumi is basically the same. But one key difference in this Naofumi compared to canon Naofumi is even though all of this is being thrown out of him, yeah, he's starting to dislike people. Yeah, he's starting to like hate. But something inside of him tells him to like keep going. Like, don't let this get you down too much. But being human, he does get down. So he gets Raftalia. They travel. Raftalia, instead of around 8ish, she actually hits about 10 on the way to loot because they take a little bit extra time getting there because now Fumi is gathering more herbs and stuff like that. So when they get there and when Raftalia finally decides to attack, because Naofumi told her to basically just run, get out of here. I don't like instead of saying what he says in canon, he says, Raftalia, just leave. If you can't do it, just leave because I don't want you to get hurt. And Raftalia, hearing that, something inside of her breaks, and she's heartbroken. She's like, no, like Master's like abandoned me, like my mom, my dad. Master's gonna die like they did, and her mindset, she breaks it when she stabs the two-headed dog and actually kills it. Something crazy happens to Naofumi, kind of like, God, I forget the name of the series, but I can't really explain it. So one moment, let me look this up real quick. Yes, the name of the series. Sorry if I mispronounce any of this. Aerofuerte Shogyo de Seike Saikyo. Basically, the character falls in a dungeon, is teleported, and he can teleport to like this thing. So a magic circle actually encompasses Naofumi and Raftalia. Naofumi, thinking like they are being attacked, rushes to Raftalia and like grabs her, but before he can throw her out of it, they get transported to this cavern it's lit up, like they can see the night sky, but there's clearly like rock formations there and everything. So he still knows they are underground and everything, and he quickly looks over and sees Raftalia is kind of like passed out, goes and kind of shakes her. Raftalia, wake up, Raftalia. Raftalia. And she's like, Master, what happened? And she looks up and she's just in awe. And she's like, she has that moment of, oh, it's pretty. Master, where are we? I don't know, Raftalia. And as they are looking around, they see a walkway. So when they decide to go to follow the path that they're in, and as they are walking down, like Raftalia is just getting this weird feeling, like hairs on the back of his neck are sticking up. Like he's just getting goosebumps. Like and even Raftalia is like, you can just feel raw, unadulterated magic in this place. And Naofumi and Raftalia don't even know what magic is. You can just feel it. You can taste it in the air itself. So they get to the end of this hallway, and when they open the doors, the double doors that are there, they're made out of a redwood that it seems that Naofumi is thinking of his homeworld, giant redwood sequoia wood. So when he opens it, pushes it open, it went like a bright light shines on them, so they shade their eyes. You know, when like a bright light flashes in your head, and so when their eyes adjust, like they're looking around, and they are in just complete awe. If you thought the entrance where the foyer where they appeared at first was beautiful, this is just, it looks like the realm of the gods to them, basically. And they notice that there's this giant tree in this cavern. And sitting at the base of the tree, they see this weird looking skeleton sitting, leaning up against what looks like 3 basins. And around, they can see armors made of this weird material, this weird like metal and stuff. And that's on the left hand side. On the right, they see dozens upon dozens of scrolls and books and everything. And then Naofumi looks over and he sees this weird hourglass thing sitting off slightly to the right of the tree, basically behind it to the right. But the tree is basically center place, is like in the center of the room. And now Fumi he's seeing the skeleton, but like something inside of him is telling him to like approach this thing. And he sees that in its grasp there's like a seed in its right hand, and there's a scroll sitting in its left hand. So I know now Fumi basically approaches this with extreme caution, and as he gets closer, he goes to look at it. Then all of a sudden, the skeleton begins to shimmer and it shakes a little bit. And then, for lack of a better word, this is what now Fumi would think. A ghost, like a spirit. No, a ghost like basically comes out of the form of the skeleton. And at first he's shocked, but for some reason he's not being scared. Neither is Raftalia. But Raftalia for a whole other reason. Because she grew up in this world. She's heard the legends about fairies. She's heard like many tales and stuff. Basically, fairies are up there in tales with the cardinal heroes. Basically, they are legends of old, of an extinct race that once lived in this world that went extinct for some unknown reason, and they were very powerful. They were some of the most benevolent, most pure beings. later on, some people would begin to call these creatures angels, but for demi-humans and a lot of the people of the area, like fairies and angels are basically interchangeable, just because of the actions of them when they actually interacted with humans. They were very benevolent, kind, and friendly. So Raphtalia standing behind Naofumi with the large, like, enemy eyes, like moments. And so back to Naofumi, he's just thinking, why am I not scared of this? I used to be deathly afraid of these things. Why is this not scaring me? Could it be because of the system? And he notices the spirit is looking at him with these glowing eyes and is just looking at him. So he approaches it, and it gets down on its knees and sits Sansa, basically with like your knees on the ground and you're sitting like on your heels and stuff like that. And it says, Sir Naofumi, welcome to the Hall of Fairies. You and your companion have passed the test. I can finally rest. In the scroll, you'll find the reason behind all of this. And please, keep safe the seed in the hand. It is something very precious to my kind. You're worthy. Your courage, your will, your honor is unbreakable. Keep these values close to yourself. And I thank you, new guardian. Now I can finally rest and go see my brethren in the next life. And as it says this, its form begins to disapitate, and Naofumi then sees the skeleton begin to crumble into like dust. And sitting there, like, the scroll and the seed begin to float up and levitate and come towards Naofumi. And in his mind, he's just completely shocked, but again, he still reaches out and grabs the seed. And Naofumi gets a notification, Tree of Life seed acquired. Would you like to store this? And Naofumi thinks, and then like the scroll lands in his hands. Last will and testament of the fairies. And he's just thinking, like he's starting to like feel this weird energy come over him. So he decides, against his better judgment, to like store the seed into his inventory. And he thinks, how do I know I have an inventory? And so he opens the scroll, and inside the scroll, it explains like the true history of the fairies, how they created these 4 fountains. And Naofumi's like, wait, 4 fountains? And then he looks over and he sees like a bunch of rubble and a broken basin, like a cracked in half basin. How they originally, as like their people, were naturally dying out because the tree of life that they are born from had begun to die because of all the many times that the waves of chaos have affected the world. It started to lose a lot of its life, because it started to lose a lot of its power. And the only thing they could think of to halt this process was to pour in their very essence into these 4 basins of water. And it explains that how their kind was hunted to extinction due to like mankind's greed. But it also mentions that like an unknown name, and then he gets a notification. This land was later settled and became known as the Kingdom of Melamark. And that's basically the entire kingdom. This isn't like right underneath the city or anything. This is just like out in the region. Hell, they don't even know where, like, you wouldn't even be able to find this place because it's magic. Like, not even the gods could enter this place. Only the truly worthy could do it. And because of the connection that Raphtalia formed with Naofumi, like Naofumi telling Raphtalia to leave, he doesn't want her to get hurt, was the first, you could say, incantation. And then Raphtalia's resolve to like ignore that to protect Naofumi was what activated the circle. So back to the letter. So it explains. So we were going. Yeah. So it explains that their kind was hunted to extinction. In everything about how they originally were in this land, in the land of Melamark, and it explains what their people are and what these basins of water is. And it says, the chosen, if you choose this path, please drink from the basin, from one of the basins, and drink it all. And it explains like one drop will extend your life by 10 years. A goblet will extend your life by 100 years, but if you drink the whole thing, you'll become immortal. And that I hope that I made the right decision by choosing you, Sir Naofumi. And then the text changes, and the text begins to disappear, and then the scroll evaporates, and then Naofumi gets a notification pop-up that says, notification, title acquired, Guardian of Tree of Life has been acquired. So Naofumi is like kind of pacing back and forth. Raphtalia is just in complete awe because she's heard legends of these beings, and she's like, wow, so this was like their home and everything. So Naofumi finally like decides after like a good 30 minutes to an hour, he walks over to like one of the basins, picks it up, and just downs the whole thing. Because I can't say everything that was in the letter, because that would be a little bit of a spoilerish for episode 1 and the rest of the series, because there's a few things, ideas that I've talked with Aetherios that I want to keep as some plot points for later on. So, like, after he finishes, like, every last drop of the basin, like, he drops it. Like, he drops it, and it hits the ground and crashes. Raphtalia's brought out her stupor, and she runs over to Naofumi because he begins to, like, scream, because it feels like he's just drunk liquid lava, like his insides feel like they're boiling and cooking. And like he's just in the most excruciating pain as possible. And after like he stops screaming, it like just shaking on the ground. And Raphtalia's like there as well, like with her hands on him. He's like, Master. Like the pain finally stops, and he looks up at Raptalia, and he smiles, and then he passes out. Raptalia is sitting there like looking at Naofumi, thinking it had died, and she's just crying, like tears are flowing through like down her face, and she's just crying and crying, saying, "No, no, no, master, master." And like a good 2 hour, like a good, like she basically almost cries herself to sleep. Several hours had passed. Now Fui wakes up and he's like, "Oh man, that hangover is the worst I ever had. Oh, if I knew it was going to be like that, I probably wouldn't have drunk it." And he's rubbing his eyes, and then he feels something like latch onto like his front, like in like a death grip, and his eyes shoot up, and he sees like Raftalia. Her eyes are puffy. She has tear stains on her face, and he just slowly like starts patting her head, and it's like, "I'm okay. Whew. Just give me a minute." There's some... Whoa. Now Fumi notices that his vision has changed. Like, colors are more vibrant. He's seeing more detail. He's smelling like morning dew in the area, and like he can hear this melodic humming in the area now. And then he sees like a bunch of notifications that popped up, and he goes through them, reads them through. Like, he gets notification about abilities acquired. You have acquired immortality. Any damage dealt to your body will be healed no matter what. Curses can still affect you, but you are resistant to them. They aren't, and it gives an example, like just like the shield system, you are unaffected. You cannot have a slave crest put on you. And he's like, "Whoa!" And he notices that he or she, and then he reads another notification. Your strength has increased by 25%. Your intelligence has increased by 25%. Your vitality has increased by 25%. Your wisdom has increased by 25%. Your senses have increased by 25%. Your physical damage resistance has increased by 25%. Sorry about the interruption. My phone went to sleep and it automatically stopped the video. So where I was, it was basically the slave crest stuff. So it basically says your strength has increased by 25%. Your vitality has increased by 25%. Your senses have increased by 25%. Your intelligence has increased by 25%. Your wisdom has increased by 25%. Your life for your... God, where was I? Hold on. Yep, right there. That's where I was at. So it basically lists off all these increases, and now Fumi's mind is this. And then the final notifications. Congratulations, guardian of the hall. And he's like, "Wait, it's like a head thing." And then he looks at Raftalia. He notices that she's still in his party, and he sees a weird symbol next to. He sees a weird symbol next to her, and like next to her name, and it's blinking. And then he looks over the basin and he sees the same symbol blinking over the fountains. He decides he's thinking about it, and then he walks over to one of the basins and feeds like the basin's contents into his shield. And because he saw the same symbol blinking over his shield, and then over the fountains, and then next to like her name and the party system. So as he finishes up, he sees like new shield unlocked, Fairy Guardian's shield. And we'll get into like all the abilities and stuff it gains in the next episode. So he looks down at Reftalia, and like he basically basically subconsciously he creates a little bit of water in his hand, and he's rubbing like the tear stains off of Raftalia's face, and she's thinking she's thinking, Master's okay. And he basically asks her, Raftalia, there's one basin left. You can drink this, but there are some side effects. You'll have to go through the same pain, I'm assuming, as me, and I don't know what the effects will be on you. Though, if you choose to drink it, you'll be with me for eternity. And you will, but one of the major downsides to this Reptilia, you've got to decide this. The people that you'll come to love in the future, you'll watch them grow old, you'll watch them die eventually. They'll die of old age, or they'll die in combat. And if you're ready for that, would you stay with me? I'm not going to force you to drink this. If you don't want to, then I'll just store it for later date for someone else. And she's looking up at Naofumi with some wide eyes, and she's like, is it safe, Master? Naofumi kind of smiles at her, and he's like, depends on your point of view. He gives her a couple of minutes to decide on it, and she finally gets a look of seriousness on it. And Naofumi says, and this is what causes her to finally decide. If you choose to drink this, then I will always be your shield, and you'll always be my sword. So she gets this very serious look. She walks up to the last basin, picks it up, and begins to drink it. She feels this weird sensation, tingling sensation in her body. Then she feels this burning sensation on her chest, and she looks down and she sees the curse, the slave crest starting to burn away. And she begins to feel excruciating pain and begins to scream, but she's just thinking, no, the slave crest is gone, then I won't be with Master Naofumi. No. And the magic that's happening right now with her feels these feelings of her, and the mark disappears, but she can feel this cruel sensation go from her chest up around her neck to her back, centering on the upper center of her back, basically right below the trapezia marks, right in between the shoulder blades, settle, and then unbelievable pain, pain that you would never feel even in childbirth. And after she settles down, after she stops feeling pain, she looks up to Naofumi with like a smile of contentment, and then just drops. And that, you beautiful souls, is actually where this part's going to end. Sorry about the interruption, but like I said, my phone went into sleep mode for some reason, even though I have it set up to where if I'm recording, it doesn't go into it. So I'm sorry if there's a little bit mixed up, and I will watch this episode through and see if there's any information that kind of got cut out of it, and I will retcon it and adapt it a little bit when episode 1 comes out. That being said, like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and let me know, and if you decide to comment, let me know what you think about this idea in the comments below. That being said, see you beautiful souls in the next episode.